National Electoral Council of Venezuela proclaims and confirms the re-election of Nicolas Maduro as president of the South American nation. In Palestine, thousands of citizens were displaced from the Bureij camp in the center of Gaza Strip hours after the warning of a new bombing in the region. And in Pakistan, clashes between two tribes left dozens killed and 151 others injured after 6 consecutive days of fighting. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The National Electoral Council of Venezuela proclaims and confirms the re-election of Nicolas Maduro as president of the South American nation. After Sunday's victory, President Maduro arrived at the headquarters of the National Electoral Council to be proclaimed constitutional president for the period 2025-2031. In this regard, Elvis Amoroso, president of the Electoral Council, expressed that the Venezuelan electoral system is the best internationally, adding that the Venezuelan people expressed their will by means of the suffrage and that the sovereignty lies with the citizens as dictated by the Constitution. The constitutional president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, received the credential from the electoral power for a new mandate for the 2025-2031 term. During his speech, he denounced a far-right led by cyber attack against the electoral system.
A cyber attack is a hacking to the electoral transmission system, hindering the transmission of data to lead to an electoral blackout. They wanted to boost an electoral blackout to hinder the electoral results.
In the face of the attacks and claims from the far right backed by international forces, the re-elected president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, reaffirmed the Venezuelan people's determination to freedom and sovereignty.
We are determined to be free, and as well as we have defeated you, we are going to defeat you once again. We are going to defend peace, tranquility, democracy, and the life of this Bolivarian revolution of this 21st century. We are going to defend it with constitution, with laws, with civic unity, with the mobilized people permanently.
Meanwhile, the Venezuelan Attorney General's office denounced the attempts of the extreme right to destabilize the outcome of the presidential elections. During the press conference, the Attorney General Tarek William Saab congratulated the Venezuelan people for participating in the election day in a peaceful manner without falling into provocations. Likewise, Tarek William Saab asserted that the opposition sought to perfect the hybrid war that started 25 years ago, with the international spokesperson calling for bloodshed.
And I want to congratulate the people of Venezuela that were able to combat all these attempts. So it has been the electoral referee, the electoral council, as I warned you several times, that was the authority for saying who was the winner.
The Attorney General of Venezuela also referred to the fact that the National Electoral Council will release the total results of the elections in the next few hours as a sign of the transparency of the process.
That in the coming hours there will be available in the official website a thorough analysis of the results of each polling station. This is what is valid, not a photocopy of what you intended to do in November.
Meanwhile, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, congratulated his Venezuelan counterpart, Nicolas Maduro, on his victory in the presidential elections. On a communique, Putin stressed, Russian-Venezuelan relations are based on a strategic partnership. I am sure that your activities as a head of state will continue to contribute to their progressive development in each area. Later, the head of state added, this full responds to the interest of our friendly peoples and is aligned with the construction of a fairer and more democratic world order. Finally, the president noted, I would like to confirm our readiness to continue our constructive joint work on current issues of the bilateral and international agenda. Bear in mind that you will always be a welcome guest on Russian soil. In Venezuela, former presidential candidate Benjamin Rauseo commented on the victory of the Venezuelan president-elect Nicolas Maduro.
All of us who participated in this election submitted ourselves to the rules and to the referee who governed them. What we have to do now is to accept and abide by the verdict of the referee, who is the one who transmits the verdict of the people. Therefore, I endorse the decision of the National Electoral Council and congratulate the one whom the arbitrator has proclaimed as the winner. After the arbitrator pronounces his sentence, what we have to do is to turn the page of the election and start a new chapter, that of a reconciled Venezuela.
Also, former presidential candidate Luis Eduardo Martinez urged Venezuelans to recognize the official results with peace and to forge a national dialogue.
Paz, paz, paz.
Peace, peace, peace. It is time for peace. Peace forged in dialogue, reconciliation, understanding. Peace consensus to get Venezuela out of the dramatic crisis in which it finds its reality. It is time to embrace each other as brothers to work together to be Venezuela, the best country in the world. Honor to the vanquished, glory to the victor. Antonio José de Sucre, Great Marshal. May God bless all Venezuelan families.
Likewise, former opposition candidate José Brito acknowledged the presidential election's outcome.
We have received the first bulletin, which indicates that with 80% of the tallies, there is a result. We have been coherent with our proposal from the moment we presented our name for consideration of the will of the Venezuelan people, that we presented the proposal of Plan B. We also said that we would recognize it. Not only the results, but also the call for the peace of Venezuela.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Sunday, the President of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, highlighted the achievements of his administration after a year and a half in office. The head of state argued that during his term, he has boosted the economic domestic growth, the control of inflation, the resumption of social programs, and the return of the country to the international arena. Lula further reaffirmed his intention to continue investing in social projects so that the country can move forward for the sake of all Brazilian families and thus drastically reduce hunger and poverty in the country. In addition, the progressive leader shared the achievements made during his fight against deforestation in the Amazon. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, welcomes the new International Day against the genocidal blockade led by friends and nationals in various cities around the world. In the social network X, the head of the Cuban diplomacy wrote that in the face of injustice, the solidarity of those who march together with Cuba will always shine. On Sunday, July 28th, the Cuban patriotic emigration in the United States once again protested at the Miami International Airport against the blockade of Cuba and the absurd list of nations sponsoring terrorism. Among the participating leaders were Cubans, Latin Americans, and voices from the United States who defied the threats of the Miami ultra-right wing and gathered at the American Airlines flight's Terminal D, holding up signs, banners, and flags of both nations.
I'm here today because We have to speak out to the people of Miami and the world at this airport of the injustice of what the U.S. government is doing to the people of Cuba by putting Cuba on a phony, immoral, and illegal list of state sponsors of terror, by imposing 240 sanctions. The Trump administration and now the Biden administration are creating great suffering, unnecessary suffering for the people of Cuba. And this is not only an attack on the people of Cuba, but on the people of the United States as well, on our democratic rights, on our rights to enjoy collaboration with Cuba's scientific community and all the wonders that they have been able to do despite the blockade. So I'm here to join with Cubans and non-Cubans to demand an end to the blockade, take Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terror.
In Palestine, thousands of citizens were displaced from the Bureij camp in the center of the Gaza Strip hours after the warning of a new bombing in the region. Following the warning issued on Sunday by the Israeli occupation forces, eyewitnesses reported that thousands of citizens fled the camp and the surrounding areas. The citizens of Gaza were forced to leave their homes and shelters to move to the humanitarian zone created in Al-Mawasi, where days before the Zionist army perpetrated a massacre and killed more than 90 people. According to reports from humanitarian organizations, Gaza is already the most displaced region in history. From October to December alone, there were 3.4 million displacements.
You must find a solution for U.S. Enough is enough. Where shall we head for? They have destroyed our homes. They have killed our children. They have displaced our women and men. Where are we heading? Enough is enough. Where shall we head for?
Israeli occupation forces committed 3 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip during the last 24 hours, killing at least 66 Palestinians. The Ministry of Health in Gaza confirmed in the last hours the Israeli genocidal army launched new attacks which left over 241 injured. Rescue entities denounced that the Tel Aviv forces prevent the arrival of ambulances to the sites of the strikes, which hinders the care of the wounded and the rescue of people trapped under the rubble. Medical sources claim that the death toll in the framework of the Israeli aggression against Gaza amounts to over 39,300 people, while the number of wounded is almost 91,000. The Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah attacked Israeli army positions in the border towns of Al-Manara and Shutula. The Hezbollah movement stressed that all the targets were accurately hit. Likewise, it assured that it attacked the positions where the Israeli military gathered. It is worth mentioning that 2 missiles were launched against the area from the Lebanese territory, and also Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held the Lebanese movement responsible for a missile attack launched last July 27th against the Mashdal Shams municipality in the Golan Highlands occupied by Israel. In this regard, the movement's authorities stated that they had no involvement in this aggression against the Syrian Golan. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for an English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Malaysia, Premier Anwar Ibrahim sent a letter to Russia requesting its membership in the BRICS group. The senior Malaysian official expressed his willingness to participate as a member country or a strategic partner in the bloc, initially composed of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It is also important to note that this year it was extended with the entry of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and Iran. Other countries have expressed their interest in joining the group, which is an economic, political, and social alliance focused on a multipolar world. In Bangladesh, students called for new demonstrations against police repression during protests against public employment quotas. At least 194 people were killed during the demonstrations. Abdul Kader, one of the leaders of the protest, called on the entire youth for a new demonstration, calling on the government to prosecute the officers involved in the murders of students. Those present also seek an apology from Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Last Monday, July 22nd, the leaders of the student demonstrations had temporarily suspended the protests. In Pakistan, dozens of people were killed and 151 others were injured after 6 consecutive days of clashes between two tribes. Kurram District Police Headquarters Officer Qasim Khan reported that the incident started as a land ownership dispute, which escalated into a case of communal violence that killed 43 people. The clashes started last Wednesday and have involved the use of heavy weapons. The district authorities ordered the immediate closure of roads in the province and the blocking of the telecommunications networks to prevent the movement and communication of the armed groups. Bolivia set a new record of 10,424 hotspots, of which over 95% are in the Santa Cruz and Beni departments. The Deputy Minister of Civil Defense, Juan Carlos Calvimontes, informed that so far this year, 9,023 hotspots have been reported in Santa Cruz, while in Beni there were 1,317. None of them are under control, so they have managed to get the support of 310 military personnel who will carry out fire mitigation tasks. The fire is increasing temperatures, dry vegetation and gusts that in some regions range from moderate to strong in these departments. The National Institute of Meteorology of Guatemala warned that due to the passage of a trough combined with other meteorological conditions, rainfalls are expected in several regions. The meteorological authorities of Guatemala confirmed that local storms are expected to develop in the afternoon in areas of the southeast Boca Costa and south coast. The agency warned that the atmospheric conditions may cause hail and up to 52 millimeters of rainfall. In this regard, the authorities recommended to take the necessary precautions in view of the rainfall that could cause sudden flooding of rivers, floods and landslides. In southeastern China, Typhoon Gaemi caused a landslide which claimed at least 12 lives. The local authorities reported 6 injured and some 18 people trapped under the rubble. More than 240 rescuers had been dispatched to carry out relief operations and evacuate more than 30,000 inhabitants. In this regard, hundreds of companies suspended operations as a precautionary measure. Also in China, authorities evacuated more than 10,000 people due to heavy rains affecting provinces in the northeastern part of the country. On Saturday, the Yalu River in the North Korea border region rose above the warning level, so they had installed makeshift floodgates to control the floods and block the waters in the city of Dandong. Local authorities activated the second level of emergency response to flooding. Asian teams maintain their dominance as China takes top spot on the medal table at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, entering the third day of competition. In this sense, China accumulates 5 golds, 2 silvers and 2 bronzes, and thanks to these results snatches the first place from Japan. Behind China is Japan with 8 total medals, 4 of them gold. On the other hand, the third place is for South Korea with 4 gold, 2 silver and a bronze. For Latin America, the best position in the medal tally is Brazil in the 14th place, thanks to 3 medals, 1 silver and 2 bronze. Now from the South presents the Olympic Trivia segment to test your knowledge about Olympic sports. As the Paris 2024 Olympic Games kick off with the remarkable dominance of Asian nations, we ask you today, which Asian nation has won the most gold medals in a single edition of Olympic Games? Japan, China, or South Korea? And the answer is... the Asian nation that has the most gold medals in one edition of the Olympic Games is China. It should be noted that China won 48 gold medals, 22 silver medals and 30 bronze medals for a total of 100 medals in the Olympic Games they organized in 2008. China had a delegation of 10,942 athletes at those Olympic Games and led the overall medal standing above the United States. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. With Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.